Hello and welcome back to the English broadcast of the LPL. Coming in for a final game now between FPX and Vici. Now, I did lie to you a little. We are going to try our best to finish up this series before the next series starts. I'm going to be taking this one with Clement. Now, Clement, coming into this final game, I'm going to give you a golden opportunity, which is which team's going to take the series. Because right now, I think a lot of people looked at this and was like, it's going to be a 2-0 or probably a 2-1 as well to FPX. But now, I think there's reasonable doubt as to whether they actually win the series.
I predicted a 2-1 for FPX. I knew that they weren't clean enough to do it in a 2-0. I thought they had the talent to do so, but...
Has your faith wavered, Clement?
Nah, my faith hasn't. And then they panned to LWX, and I have to rethink my entire thought process. My faith hasn't wavered. I feel like FPX should take it. They just drafted themselves a very difficult-to-execute late-game team-fighting composition, and they fell in the early game, frankly, to some really stupid mistakes from that blue buff pool. So I do think if FPX just correct that, give themselves a chance in the mid to late game, they should win out the series.
Yeah, I've got the coach just talking to Fire Rain right now. He's just saying, all right, if you could pick Smite again and next time the FPX go for a Baron, just steal it. And then do the same for every other objective. That's how we win the game.
That has been working for them quite often. You know, Fire Rain on the Talon, I did not expect him to perform so well, even though we call him a bit of a one-trick. He's not necessarily the best on those one-tricks either. So Fire Rain definitely a bit of a middle-of-the-pack player so far, or even, you could say, kind of in the bottom tier as our ranking goes. I'm not going to be like Raz and call him the worst yet, but
is that what Raz said about my boy Fire Rain?
Yeah, he did just straight up call him the worst. No, I think it's reasonable. I think it's totally reasonable. If you look at the stats, it's definitely 100% true.
If you look at the stats,
if you look at the stats, it's 100%
but
true.
We're stats informed, not stats driven, Clement. And from the eye test, I actually think that Fire Rain's a pretty good mid laner. However, the other way you can spin it is that we just have a lot of good mid laners in the LPL. So
that is true.
Not everyone can be the best, so someone's got to be the worst, so someone can be the best. But Fire Rain is not bad by any means.
I tend to disagree with that. I think he does one or two things very good.
Okay, and what are those things?
The one or two things he does very good is that he makes himself relevant in terms of the mid and late game. Early game, he actually fumbles quite a lot. A lot of deaths early, a lot of missed opportunities. His communication with Swift is not on point. If you think about this series, like how many times did he actually get a gank kill in the mid lane with Swift?
I can't hear you over the sound of him getting man of the match and destroying everyone in teamfights, Clement.
That's not an excuse. The answer is 0. And you can see, like, it's so crystal clear that Crisp, I'm sorry, not Crisp, but like even Caveman has the better synergy with the rest of the members on Vici rather than Swift.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you calling it, Clement, and it's difficult to disagree.
Take away the
X factors. Congratulations to FPX for winning Game 3 here. Great 2-1.
Game close, boys.
Yeah, so we had the bans right there. Took away Swiss Nidalee, the Yasuo as well from the good old Fire Rain in the mid lane, as well as the Talon. So really trying to defang him. Going to follow up with the Talia, the Zoe, and the Aatrox ban from Vici. However, they have neglected to ban away the Kindred, which caused them a lot of problems. On Vici's side, they will prioritize the Tahm Kench.
Alright, I like the Tahm Kench a lot more than the Swain. The problem with Vici, and I have called them out on this multiple times, Swain is not a flex pick for them. It does not make sense to early pick the Swain because it's so easily countered in lane. I like this idea of going back to the most played for Caveman, that Tahm Kench provides protection for Snow, and they could go once more for an early game catch-oriented composition with a late game AD carry like Ashe.
Yep, setting up for it for sure. They were hovering over the Swain, but FPX will be the ones to take it in the end for themselves. Swain, big pick here in the LPL, and definitely in the LCK as well. I don't know if you feel that is the case. Rakan will be locked in as well for Crisp. Definitely a bit of a playmaker down there, so glad he gets his hands on that one.
Yep, one of Chris's best champions. You could see that he is kind of the main star of FPX in the sense that they always want him on an engaged champion. Two that come to mind, Alistar and Rakan, are definitely the big ones that you don't want to leave on the table.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, boy.
All right, I'm going to make a prediction here.
What's
Cool is going to have one of the best games of the split.
Okay.
You know why?
Because
Cool is a tech player. What I mean by a tech player is that he has a bunch of champions lined up, and whenever he sees you pick a, like a blind pick, he can counter it very well.
My trap card.
Yep, he's got 14 champions so far, the most out of any mid laner, and he always gets last pick on FPX.
Yeah, so yeah, I have a couple of thoughts on this.
Right.
First off, I'm happy that there's an Aurelia in the game. Second, I'm unhappy that this is blind. The third is that it's against Cool, and he has a big champion pool, and he's gonna pull out like many different things that destroy Aurelia in lane, and then that will be jungle opportunity and 2v2 1 over to Alex and Cool automatically. Thoughts?
That's exactly what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
But Vici do ban out one of the potential candidates for a mid lane counterpick to the Aurelia. Take away the Grasp of the Undying Gangplank is a potential counter. We've also seen the Renekton, the Darius, the Kled even being ran mid against Aurelia. There are a lot of answers. Basically, any bruiser will do it so far.
For sure. Just take a look at these bans. It is Gangplank and Vladimir, the final two bans from Vici. FPX will take away the Ashe and Orianna. Now, specifically that Vladimir, yes, Cool can play it, but we also see it a lot from Gingun, so it's a very sudden flex to come in there. And we've also seen a good amount of Gangplank out of the top lane. Now, it will be Ezreal, actually, the pick of choice from Snow in the bottom lane.
I definitely like this pick. You can see what Vici is trying to do is they're going to have a very aggressive front line in the Gragas and the Aurelia, and Snow can just keep his distance and pick away the enemy team composition from behind his own front line. It was a safe pick, a clever one, and we can see FPX coming out with the potential Kled.
I mean, what do we say? At least that's the Galio, and we know it's going mid lane into the Aurelia right here. So I think the only swap up that we could potentially see from Vici that I could see as like a mastermind play is if we see like the Aurelia swap to top side, or we see an SWFM gold funnel. But as I'm looking at right now, I'm not feeling it particularly into either Galio or Darius, so we'll see.
Oh, Audi, don't tease me like that. You know I like the bear.
You know, I like the Riven and the Alawi that he also hovered, but it's probably going to be Cannon.
Yeah, Cannon's definitely a safer pick here. Keep his distance against the Darius.
Oh, do it.
Yes!
That's what I'm talking about. So we saw the first Quinn of the other day in the LPL. It was coming out from Jinnu from LGD. This is the second time we're seeing it now. Pretty much Jinnu was the only person in the LPL top laner wide to pick up the Quinn, at least in solo queue. But now Aldi's picked it up, and it is specifically into the Darius, Clement.
Yeah, it was actually into the Gnar, but you're correct in the sense that the Quinn is a tech counter to Darius and to the Gnar to the top lane. You're going to see a lot of this champion crop up in the last pick against these certain champions, and he's even quivering an Ignite.
Yep.
Oh, has science gone too far? No teleport on the top lane.
So we'll see if that's actually locked in, because they can change the summoners up until 0 seconds. It's the picks that get locked in at 20 seconds for the global rulebook. But the thing is right here is it's like, yes, while it was played into Gnar, you're absolutely right. The reason it came into like solo queue, for example, was the same reason that Jace has also picked into the Darius. So you have the ability to vault on the Darius. He doesn't get a chance to hit you with the W, the crippling strike, which means that Quinn just proceeds to just hit him over and over and over again. Now, I will say when I watched Jinnu the other day, Clement, in those team fights, that's where he started to scale off just a little bit, because I watched him literally not get hit a single time and constantly get maximum DPS out, and then he like barely scratched the tank. So it's really about looking for the split push in the picks in the early game. So that's why I actually kind of dig the Ignite if he takes it.
Yeah, it's basically live fast or die young. That's the idea behind it. If you get camped in lane, if you die once, game's probably over for you. Enemy's going to have a massive CS lead, and you're going to have trouble treshing up to your own top lane. But if the other way holds, then Quinn is an absolutely terrifying champion into the early game. We do see the common build for the top laners being the Youmuu's Ghostblade over the Duskblade for maximum DPS. You do want the Ghostblade in the top laner a bit more, helps you roam towards the other parts of the map a bit easier compared to the mid lane Quinn that usually does go for the Duskblade.
Yeah, small differences between the top side and the mid side. Also, you have the Aurelia in the mid lane, so yeah, it's definitely something a little bit different here from Vici, but I definitely do like it. Take a look at that critter on Summoner's Rift, and for now, though, I'm going to send it over to Shanghai.
You just heard the crowd there going, Vici, Vici, have no fear. Vici, Vici, head towards victory.
Ah.
I tried to make it rhyme, but I didn't have the vocabulary, so sorry.
That's fine. we care about the you know, perfect translations, and that's why we've got you, Clement.
Oh, thanks.
So.
Sometimes things don't have to rhyme. That being said, the other day, I don't know if you caught the rapping coming out of Snake's players, Crystal and Hudia, yeah. Crystal pretty legit at rapping.
Yeah, he
that
said
rhymed
was,
as well, not only in Mandarin but also English. I'm really impressed.
He actually called the beat too mainstream. He said, "Give me some underground, hardcore rap." Really impressed by that. Never looked down on him, and
Yeah.
we're getting the keystones right now. Interesting enough, we're seeing 2 phase rushes into the top lane, trying to catch up with each other.
I mean, to be honest, I think like if you're the Darius, you kind of have to do that. Either you go like resolve primary, or you say, okay, well, if I ever get my hands on you, it's gonna be like the Mountain versus the Viper. I will kill you. Though it probably won't ever happen because it's Quinn.
Very difficult for Darius in that matchup. You pretty much just have to take the poke early on. But we're seeing Alex trying to punish that Ignite Quinn into the top lane. This could be very bad.
Up over the wall. Now it's 8 seconds cooldown, 8-9 seconds level 1, so you're going to have to wait a little bit as he moves up here, but Gimgoon's starting to move towards him. Level 2 has been picked up by Aldi, flash forward into the apprehend. Alex chasing him down as well with this red buff. Does he have the extra damage to spare right though, because he jumps into tower range. Aldi managed to escape.
That was a great blind coming out from Audi, stopping Gimgoon and also getting the extra level up, helping him so much because he not only had the blind, he also had the vault to get away from the targets. So I really like that idea coming out from FPX, and this should be a scenario where you consistently repeat gank and just punish the fact that there is no teleport in the top lane.
This is not a replay, folks. Alex is just doing it again, but Swift is in the top lane. He's predicted this potential opportunity. Darius walked forward, took a bird to the face, and now Alex is under attack. Can he get out of here, though? We'll have to jump into the pit, but Aldi is actually closing it around. Just kidding. Alex is actually winning this one versus Swift because Aldi didn't back him up, and Alex will force his way out.
It was very difficult for Audi to take that route. The Darius could have tried to collapse him as well, and we're seeing the early skirmish potential from the Kindred coming up huge in this matchup against Swift Scraggus.
Galio moving to the top side of the we didn't see anything.
So a small mistake. He's going to have to take the long route around, but we can see the collapse again coming out from Audi.
Can you calm down? Here comes Core charging up the taunt, thinking about the flash, goes for the flash, follows it with the full combo as well. Here comes Gimgoon, who doesn't want to commit because of that teleport. So that was a flash for a teleport trade.
Yeah, definitely in the favor of Vici here, I would say. Just keeping their team members alive, making sure the Audi lane does not collapse, but we're getting a very good insight into why professional players do not take a teleport. Always take teleport into the top lane, and the reason is that it's at the pro level, it's so easy for players to manipulate waves, to control the wave in a manner that if the top laner is able to zone you out even once and force you to go back to base, the laning phase could be over.
That's definitely a possibility. And let's just quickly look at that bottom lane, because we've got a bit of a tussle down there, you know, a bit of an altercation, but it's not going to result in a kill necessarily. Now, snoping on this Ezreal, I have a lot of, you know, just natural trust in the LPL climate of people when they pick up Ezreal. Like, I look at Uzi, and it's always a legacy pick for him, and he'll pick it even when he probably shouldn't. But then he wins anyway, and I'm like, well... But then when I look at other players do it, like, you know, Snow, or like other AD carries, that's when I'm a little bit skeptical.
Well, you know, Ezreal has been gone through a lot of iterations. It's not always easy to tell if Ezreal's like a good pick in the current patch or not, but I would say if you look over across the pond towards LCK, it's still a very, very popular pick.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is you can play kind of this assassination team composition where the front of your, the half of your team is going in for the enemy backline, going to snipe them out, and you can keep yourself in a very safe position. And just continue to DPS throughout the entirety of the team fight. So I would actually say it's a pick that I would like to see more in the LPL. Surprisingly enough, we're much more focused on the Lucian compared to the LCK.
Mr. Chu, I know you've done a lot of research on Quinn in the top lane, and you know why it's good, and also about the runes and the keystones. Hold that just for a second, because Gimgoon is going to drag the Quinn, but not be able to see the Quinn, because he has blinded him. He definitely actually won that fight, though, because Swift was looking for the gank at the same time. And we just got, well, no, Justice Punch into mid lane. Fire Rain is going to take the full brunt of that as the minion wave gets pushed in here. I think we have time. I'm going to wait for the junglers to stop looking angrily at top lane.
they're
Okay.
going to keep on doing it.
So there we go. So yeah, Aldi, of course, running the Celerity. And talk to me about like the synergy between Quinn's kit and how the runes are currently.
So the general idea is you want as much move speed as possible, but Fire Rain...
No, I want to learn. Fire Rain pops the Defiant Dance, jumps over the wall. He's also got Swift on the backside, and he will get away from this, but he is a damaged Aurelia.
Yeah, does have to back out of that fight. And the basic idea is you want as much move speed as possible. In fact, the build we saw from Jinnu, every single item he purchased gave him additional movement speed. And that synergizes with Celerity amazingly well. You get a free pickaxe in the late game just with that. And I did the test on it with the Yomu's Ghostblade and with behind enemy lines. And if you even proc a couple more like Phase Rush or the Storm Razors, you get 840 move speed.
Oh.
Just to move around the map, and that's why he's not running teleport. He's saying that I can get to places I need to be without the TP. In the 4.5 seconds, I can move over about like, if I do the calculations correctly, it should be over close to 4,000 distance, and that's pretty much half the map.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need teleport because he can just run there faster or fly there, I guess.
Pretty much.
That's a
like
fast
Valor
bird.
is a very hard-working bird.
That's true. I actually don't know how big Valor is because, you know, when you do the emote with Quinn, it's like a small bird, but when, because he can literally pick Quinn up. So I feel like Valor's a much bigger bird than he lets on.
Or you could say that
He's
Quinn is
grown much,
actually a much lighter person than...
yeah, maybe. Yeah. Possible.
I will go over the build for Quinn. What we've seen is the Yomu's Ghostblade first, Storm Razors, Black Cleaver is one of them as well, pretty common against tanks. And then you go into the build diverges a little bit. We do see the Phantom Dancer being one of them, extra crit, extra move speed, and extra side lane pressure as well. But the general idea is always move speed, move speed, move speed.
And AD. But moving P turns into AD, so that's the Quinn build. And yeah, I mean, Quinn is an interesting champion because Quinn got buffs like multiple times over time. And it was like really just a matter of time before Quinn came back. There's just a lot of nice quality of life changes that Quinn got over time, including like when she recalls, she mounts onto Valor. Same thing, because before it used to be like if she died, she would go onto Valor, but now it's just if she recalls. So it's like all these nice little things have just added up to Quinn just being pretty good.
Yeah, it's actually quite significant because every time you go back to base, you save 1.5 seconds. And that adds up relatively quickly, to be honest. Like, it's those small things in League of Legends, the small stats that you don't really think about, that once they start compiling upon themselves, gives you a large advantage.
That's true, and it's also how the conversions work, right? Because I remember when Master Yi got compensation, and he got extra 8% attack speed.
Yeah.
But that's like an extra like dagger essentially in the early game.
Yeah.
But his just first jungle clear, and you're like, oh, okay. But like you look at 8%, and you're like, that's not a lot. Yeah. But when in actual game terms, it's huge.
It's just starting out, like, if you transfer a lot of these things into gold values, you'd be surprised what they actually end up being.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgusting. So far, I think Vici Gaming, if you look at their top lane, which is the most important lane since they're running Ignite into the top lane, I would say the Quinn pick isn't working out for them.
And what do you think that's the symptom of? The fact that we just had so much pressure coming in from FPX's side, and Vici just haven't been able to respond in the same way?
Yeah, I feel like Kindred has such an early game pressure lead over the Gragas. You pick Gragas pretty much for ganking and utility. It's not really a dueling champion. And you can see the way Alex is playing is that he's frequently going into Vici's jungle and just forcing Swift away. He said, like, you're not going to influence this lane, and Audi's going to have to assume that I'm in every single brush. So if you look at this lane, look, Audi's not even trying to go up and trade. Usually when they play this lane, it's actually safe for the Quinn to go up and auto-attack the Darius.
Yeah, you just keep hitting him in the face, and there's nothing that Darius can do. He can't win that trade at all. He tries to apprehend, he gets faulted. But Aldi, he's having to play back, and the knock-on effect of that is because he's not hitting the Darius, he's not pushing the wave, he can't dip into Fogglebore and roam. He's level 8 now. I haven't seen him move. He's just top playing with Valor. Valor's just like, can I come out yet? And it's just like nothing's happening. So right now it feels like this Quinn pick in the early game is being completely diffused, just because Vici once again didn't prioritize taking away the Kindred as such, but looked for an answer to it in the form of the Gragas later on into the game.
They definitely still have a very strong team fight composition. I actually quite like the execution potential.
So finally dancing, but still going to get apprehended. Pops the Blade Cage right there and follows through with the ultimate, but he is just going to get destroyed in the mid lane for first blood to FunPlus Phoenix.
Such a good three-man collapse coming out from FPX, and I wonder for Fire Rain if he regrets using the W and locking himself in place. Probably didn't see the Darius roam on him. You never expect that when your top lane is playing a Quinn, so unfortunately for Fire Rain, just sandwiched in a bad position and used the worst possible skill combination to handle the situation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Irelia's instincts are to hit, defy, and dance.
I don't blame them.
I don't blame them either. It's like a pangolin, right, where they do the defensive like ball curl. That's usually not always the right choice though, because it basically roots you in place, which means that the enemies get time to set up on you in the same way that if you go into a Guardian Angel, but at the same time they can also hit you. So they can hit you with CC, they can set themselves up for CC layering, whereas actually laying up the Flawless Duet actually gives you some ways out of those situations. Yes, it's a 0.75 second stun, but then you actually get the priority and the opportunity in that trade to even it up.
Yeah, but unfortunately he also used the E earlier in that gank as well. Didn't land anything, so you know, just a unlucky fortune of events, and Caveman should not be allowed to base right there. Swain does let him through, LWX, ever merciful.
I'll allow it.
So the big question for FPX later into the mid game is how well can Crisp actually get the engage onto the enemy team. Vici is going to try to kite as much as possible.
Uh-oh. Apprehend. Volt, but lands the crippling strike. Aldi has to be careful right here. Yeah, he's going to get caught by his swing.
I really like that trade coming out from Gimgoon. So what he did right there is he used the Phage extra movement speed to close the distance with Audi, and Audi was not expecting that.
Yeah, he's being very creative in the ways that he actually tries to jump on Audi, but this has all been set up from the early game. Typically, Darius would never get this opportunity. He'd be too far behind, but the fact that he's even on farm, in fact ahead in farm, make it very difficult for Audi to do anything. Now he's being forced back by the 2 versus 2 in the top side, and it's actually Cool who's coming up here. He's substituting, he's tagging in for his jungler. Yeah, I like the idea there, just in case Audi decides to continue aggressing forwards. He didn't know Swift was on the bottom side, in which case he would have continued walking. At the very least, he'll back away from this play. Alex in the bottom side of River, instantly clearing away this ward, actually coming up from Caveman. Bot lane's turned into a 1 versus 1 as the supports have gone roaming. Cool has turned into a jungler, and Alex has turned into a mid laner.
So everything is basically shifting up towards the top lane, and I really like what FPX is doing here. We don't usually see this type of synergy coming out from Gimgoon and FPX. They're actually one of those teams that we kept on questioning. Why don't you just go top and snowball Gimgoon? You know, for half a split, they didn't do it, but these days, you know, they're reading the enemy composition, and to be honest, it's probably a fairly easy read that the enemy is not bringing teleport, but it's still refreshing to see this type of coordination, this type of pressure being put onto Vici.
Well, I'll be honest, I feel like that's been a story for Gimgoon and most of his career. It's like, why doesn't the team just put more resources into Gimgoon? The most I've ever seen back when he was on different teams was that they would, you know, go for the 4-1 composition. Back when Pepper was on the team, he wasn't able to play around top side. It took a long time for Pepper to grow as a player himself, and he actually moved more towards attacking the enemy jungle. You know, Jarvan was his pick, moved towards the mid side, looked towards the bottom lane, but never really covered for top lane.
Do you want to know the hard truth?
No.
It's because Gimgoon doesn't split push well enough to warrant the early game.
Oh, but he's on this 1 versus 2. Can he make it happen? Right now, it looks like nobody gets the healing flash of the way. Follow up. Oh, the barrel! He gets explosive cast.
Good camp there coming out from Vici. Like, the amount of time Swift have to spend to set that gank up correctly actually is pretty impressive, because he didn't have the golems anymore. Like, he was just forced out of the top side. And, you know, Alex was always hanging around that sector as well. So finding that small opportunity to get this in was fairly difficult, but I believe Galio's probably going to find him.
Yeah, Alex is starting this one up. There comes the Galio ultimate, but may have to force the respite. Comes in right there, kind of early. Alex not looking for the follow, gets the heal, but now he can't really join Cool on the offensive, so he burns the flash, but won't get anything else from that one, or Ezra ultimate.
Oh, it doesn't
hits
find it. Unfortunate.
Calculated.
Yeah, did have a chance against the Kindred. You can see the Vici pings coming out.
Yeah.
A little bit unhappy that that missed.
Would have been close though. I don't even know if it was enough damage at the level 1 ultimate, but it was worth a shot regardless. Here comes Shelly.
Should take this tower down.
That's been close. Yeah, there you go. Just enough damage.
Yeah, it's 2,000.
Yeah.
2,000 on the first hit. Usually takes over 2/3 of the HP away.
Yep. Managed to get that one. So top tower cracked. That's the first one of the game to FPX. Feels good for them. And K-Man's just roaming around bottom side. I mean, there's no one in mid lane. There's no one in the jungle. Tam Kench is the best day of his life. He's just wandering around the river. There's no one here.
Picking up farm, being a happy toad.
Yeah.
He's going to have a very difficult job later in the game.
Oh, yeah.
But let's watch this again. Pretty simple execution. Blind goes down. Gimgoon still gets the double heal, but unable to really do anything because it was through the Ignite.
Yep.
So Ignite having some uses in this game.
Yep, putting down his healing, stopping the Darius from actually getting a pretty ridiculous amount of health back. People forget that about Darius, but that's a huge part of his kit. The fact that when he's low, he will just keep on fighting. If he keeps landing those Qs, he'll never stop. He'll keep coming for you.
Yeah,
annoying.
I believe it's a 12% missing health.
Is.
So insane amount of sustain.
Up to 36%, I believe. Up to 3 targets. So
doesn't matter if you hit all 5 people, it can only go up to 3.
Yeah. But that's still a lot. You know, like a third of his health when he's at like low percentages is huge. Yeah.
Like 1000 HP doesn't sound that crazy, but if you factor in like the armor and resistance stats,
exactly.
The
amount of effective health that you have, is pretty ridiculous. And that's why I often compare Darius to Alawi, because Alawi does the same thing with the tentacles.
You
People
compare
don't
everything
realize.
to Alawi.
Yeah, it's true, but it's easier for me to think of game terms in terms of tentacles. Mid lane, Byron just trying his best to outside tree, and a really nice block on the Winds of War right there.
Yeah, but you see the problem right here is that Darius is actually free to roam on the map, while Aldi is trapped into the top lane and trying to clear the wave. This is actually why you see in solo queue, a lot of Quins actually go for static shift second.
Yeah. Just
to leave the lane. Of course, in professional, the idea is that you should never lose your lane. So we don't really see that build that often in high challenger. But yeah, you can see the problem with the Quinn so far. If she falls behind, she actually doesn't have very good wave clear.
Remember when Valor was a separate entity and he was like a melee character that you could like pop your ultimate and you turned into Valor? It was tag team.
That was like really
that was an old chain. Oh, that's about how Quinn used to be. And it was a cheesy build where you could actually like pick up the Tiamat that you could only use in that form. Cool. Under attack in the mid lane, looking for the duet, instant flashes away and should be good. Blinded. But he's a Colossus, so he doesn't really care that much about birds, only when they sit on top of them and do the business.
Yeah, Fire Ray not wanting to expend anymore. Got the flash, was happy for that. And I think Audi is just going to continue to look for this simple play where maybe the mobility from the 3-man gank squad can simultaneously put pressure on 2 points for Vici.
We're both being very quiet. Oh, they know that they're there. And Axe is like, wait a minute, how do you know? But there's a control ward here. Pops the sweepers. It's like, huh? How did you know?
Senses. Well, if the support isn't there and Swain is pushing up by himself, it's a pretty good chance.
I like that Alex did the full swoop of the area, though. He's like, impossible. There's no way they could have predicted this.
And once again with the prediction, actually hitting a double barrel.
Yeah.
So Vici really good on the defense, spot on so far.
That's true. And again, this is actually pretty different from what we usually see from Vici. They're actually playing slow instead of playing fast. Now, we used to say, why aren't they playing fast? Because they play slow all the time. But this is actually pretty good from them. Again, flash out from LWX, flashing backwards. Now, I'm going to have you know you're breaking your contract in subsection 4B. Never flash backwards, LWX, only flash forwards. So he's going to get a slap on the wrist for that one.
He doesn't read the lowercase letters, apparently.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be in all caps for him to see it.
I know all caps works for some other people as well.
That's true. They don't use Twitter, though, unfortunately, the person who's threatening. Anyway, Audi clearing up the top wave. Will be able to receive this one from Gimgoon. And Alex and Claw just throwing this one out, and will be looking towards the top lane. Alex is still pathing up there. Oh,
so
just collect the blast cone.
The moment I'm looking for is when Vici actually set up and tried to take down a tower, try to siege. I think that's the time where you see the big massacre come out from FPX. Chris is going to fly in. You're going to see a Galio land from the skies. The Vici have to group at some point. They have to group and defend a tower or either siege a tower.
Yep.
So whenever that scenario pops up, I actually feel like it's FPX's best chance to kind of put their stamp on the game.
I mean, it's pretty brutal. I mean, like, there's a lot going on here. I'm looking at the FPX comp, and I'm like, this is an FPX comp, you know what I mean? Like, you send in Crisp, you follow it with Cool. It's not quite the guided missile with, like, Camille in the jungle that Alex could play, but it's pretty close. And then you have just massive, tanky damage dealers who are, like, slow burning you down. Swain, Galio, Darius. They'll catch up to you, and they will kill you.
Yeah. Like, Vici have a great kite composition. They have the Vanguard's edge, the barrel to keep people away. But it's just, in this day and era, it's just so hard to you know, keep yourself safe.
Yeah, because like you can disengage once, but usually there's a way for them to catch up, right? If the Darius has got a couple auto attacks down, he's still phase rushing towards you.
Yeah.
And that's like, nowadays you have a lot of champions who used to be gated by not having gap closers, but because you have like all these movement speed options, they just sprint at you. And everyone's Olaf, and it's like the worst experience ever for an AD carry.
And that's the reason why I think Rakan is such a highly contested champion this meta, because he can be the one that helps the Bruiser team comp get into team fights, and he can also play the counter initiate position very well. That AoE CC can lock down so many people, battle dance, and then come out of the team fight once more. So this is why like Rakan players or Rakan teams are doing so well. You think about Chris, you think about Dumal when you talk about Rakan.
Yeah.
It's a very strong pick.
Great on that pick. A lot of good Rakan players in general. In fact, Caveman is also a connoisseur of the Rakan and the Bard. I haven't seen that in a while. I feel like Caveman's been picking up a lot more defensive supports like Tam Kench, but I like to see Caveman unleashed a little bit more, because I feel like Caveman just has potential to do very well when given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, Caveman is one of those players that can make very big plays, but is troubled by the fact that he's also very inconsistent. He's had some of the worst games from an individual performance level that we've seen in the LPL. Yeah, some of those great ones. Remember, he was very good on the Pike, actually surprisingly.
Yeah. We have a couple good Pike players in the LPL. I think Cat is definitely one of them.
My rank would be Cat, Baolan, and Caveman's probably there as well.
Yeah. It's actually been that many players who picked up Pike, to be fair, but I actually think that I like that list a lot, because you think of Baolan and you have the bounty bottom lane for sure. Of course, going alongside the Draven, which I absolutely love. And yeah, Caveman's pretty good. But it's just, I think because he's still like a relatively new pick, we need to see people explore him just a little bit more. But I'd like to see more Pike play in general.
Just want to say that not much is happening right now on the map, because neither side really has the tools to go onto each other. Vici's not really trying to play the full-on engage type of team fight, and FPX, they do need to group up and have crisp start to really get a team fight going as well. So they're just jockeying for position. No real Drake that either side really wants to contest either.
Who's this benefit in the long run though, Clement? Because we're talking about this Quinn and we're like, well, in the early game, Quinn's got to do well, you know, Irelia the same. It feels like an early game composition that wants to snowball, but because we've gone 1-1, it's almost like this is benefiting FPX more, because they're like, excellent, the Quinn is diffused, it's a 4v5 when we hit the late game.
I would say definitely on FPX. If you just look at their damage dealers, they have more area effect profile, and that's usually much more effective in terms of late game team fighting.
Yeah.
So you look at like the hyper carry potential from the Kindred as well, and I think you have to give it to him. It's just easier to execute. There are certain scenarios where Vici might be able to pull off like a miracle team fight and just kite all the way, Vanguard's edge, stop everyone.
Yeah.
But
sounds great in theory.
The level of execution needed to beat FPX's team fight comp is much, much higher.
Yeah.
Like FPX can just straight run at you.
I mean, that's the other side of execution, right? Is or theory is execution. So the execution isn't there, then you can have like the best composition in the world, and it wouldn't really work out. So one side of the map, we had another tower go to FPX. Wow, the Dragon was also being taken, triple Dragons right now. So the amount of movement speed that this comp has is pretty absurd. Quinn would have really loved those. Unfortunately, it's like the perfect. This is like the only game where you're like, triple Cloud, heck yeah, I'm a Quinn. That's more AD for me. But yeah, unfortunately in this one, it's not so great.
Probably the worst case scenario for Vici. Vici don't even mind if they get Infernals.
Yeah.
Like, if FPX catch them, they're kind of dead anyway. So they shouldn't be doing that much damage to them in the first place. Cloud is 100% the worst Drake that could possibly go over to FPX for Vici.
Yep. Really, really unfortunate. Triple Clouds is significant as well. That's a lot
9%.
of movement speed. Yeah.
Yeah, and that forces later in the game for the Elder Drake
How fast
combat.
Gingun is?
You want to think about that? The later Elder Drake, where you get 18% movement speed.
Yep.
That's pretty daunting. They're forcing the fight already.
They've already rotated towards this one. Crisp over the wall. He's going to burn the blast cone. It's going to be on Caveman, follow through. Yeah, that's going to be the banana coming across. That has spotted what's happening. FPX are not feeling a fight right now. They're just seeing if they can sneak it. Aldi, of course, fast rotation on this Quinn, moving from bot to mid to the Baron. So Vici have defused it, but just the fact that if FPX find their way in there, you know, with a couple champions, they can kill that Baron.
Yeah. For FPX, it was a little bit surprising that they took that much damage, only getting the Baron down to 8,000 health, but you can see the HP bars were already pretty diminished overall. So if they're going to try that play, they probably do need to bring Darius somewhere in the vicinity to finish him.
That's a lot of coins. Chris has got 90 gold for himself. Didn't even do anything. What an item. Alex is still staying around top side. He's placing down all this vision, and you can see pretty much FPX is in the driver's seat. In terms of gold, it's not really there, but in terms of towers, everything being down, and the fact they are essentially playing this game on the enemy side of the map, and two massive bruises on top of the Quinn. What are you going to do? That is how you deal with a Quinn.
That was quite a beautiful death. You can see the terrified minions going every which way, just trying to flee the site of the crime.
Yeah, I don't know if it's beautiful as much of it was like, you know, as you said, terrifying. Like Galio and Darius just launching on your face like that. I don't think there's anything beautiful about that at all. Oh, top lane, Alex 1v1 against Fire Rain. He's definitely buying a bit of time with this respite. In comes allies. But Fire Rain, he's going to go into his own respite. Meanwhile, 3 versus 1, as you said, Galio comes down, turning the tables, 2 versus 3. Follow the Justice Punch. LWX turning his one around, looking for the damage right there. Fire Rain can't find it. Game Good's found you. Payback getting chased out there. Winds of War chasing back once again. Snow caught out by Korn. He will follow after you. Colossal Smash comes down, and Gimgoom, the slow meat grinder, will come after you, and he will kill you. Crisp track down the enemy support for a bit of support or combat, and that'll be 3 kills for FPX.
And that explosive cast just actually killed most of his team coming out from Swift, blasting the Darius straight into his carries. A little bit unfortunate on the execution there. Darius didn't even flash for that to happen. Vici trying to, equalize a pick. Already down 1 member at the start of the fight. I think Fire Rain actually played this incredibly well. He got multiple stuns on the enemy team. Gets the initial stun onto Alex, takes him low from the 1v1. Heals up on it, gets the kill, and then delays enough time until the rest of the team can come in. Unfortunately, the cavalry does arrive from FPX, and do remember that they are playing this out as a 5v4 scenario. Chris gets the triple, and then the explosive cast blasts the Gimgoon forward.
Yeah,
and kills Caveman.
They gave him the old alley-oop right there. It felt like a bad game of poker where both sides were just raising constantly. Unfortunately, one side had the upper hand from the start, and that's pretty much how it went. One side had the better hand.
That's the problem with Vici. It seems like they don't plan these things all the way through, because they're already down 1 member. Swift was not on the right side of the map. He actually was the latest one into the team fight. So even though it looked like a 3v1 at the start, it was pretty much a 5v3.
Yep. It's unfortunate because, again, as you said, I feel like Fire Rain played that as well as he could have done. He's now picked up the Guardian Angel, but he might actually have to burn it right here. No, that being said, he's got Aldi on the backside. Yeah, Alex, you need to join your play right here because Gimgoon is getting chased out by 4 members of the team, but he's actually deciding not to. Gimgoon's going to die to the vault.
Okay, so Swing does cancel the teleport. I thought he was going to go into the fray, but fortunately for FPX, it doesn't happen so far, and then Vici gets another pick with Caveman.
Yeah, Chris reached over to LWX's keyboard and hit the cancel button on his teleport. He's like, no LWX.
I'll do it for you.
No.
This isn't breaking the contract if I press the button.
It's true, yeah. He's like, well, I've committed to my TP, so I have to. You know? Only forwards. But yeah, it's going to be a pick on the bottom side. It's not going to be too much in the end here unless Vici convert it, which I don't think they are going to. Unfortunately, FPX were not in position there to move on to the Baron themselves, so in the end, just a nice pick.
Yeah, it was FPX trying to set up a pick there, but Vici called them out on it, brought extra guns to the fight, and of course FPX with 2 members in the bot weren't able to equalize. It's another facet about Vici's composition is that they can make those surprise picks. They don't always have to wait for a 5v5 and try to kite things out. You can see Fire Rain right here doing a very good job in actually keeping the map spread out.
As we said earlier on this game, I actually felt like when Vici have the mindset of, okay, let's play this one slow, let's actually look for counter punches instead of going attack, attack, attack. You know, like the call right here is actually to receive the ball, think about what you're going to do, then toss the ball. Yeah. And Vici actually doing a very good job of that in the early game, the mid game, and now when we're at the 30-minute mark approaching late game.
The craziest thing about Vici, even though on the record they're the worst team in the LPL, is that they actually have some of the best setup for team fights.
Yeah.
When they're the one doing the setup. That, of course, is the problem most of
caveat.
the time, since in the LPL things can get pretty hectic, and you don't always get to play to your own beat. But when they do, Vici are actually a very good team to learn from. I'm not kidding. I'm actually very serious about it.
Theory.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately execution. And you look up and down this roster and you're like, well, there's actually a lot of talent here, right? Like, I think that Byron has been stepping up. Caveman, yes, is inconsistent. Swift in the jungle is actually very strong, you know, as
You're
a
gonna
jungle,
have
you specific champions which he does very well on. So, like, yes, you can maybe bolster it here and there, but like, in terms of the raw player talent, it's just like, it's close to finding the special recipe. But for now, Byron will just get caught on the top side. That being said, he's going to dash towards Cool. Look at the Defiant Dance, and the rest of the team is collapsing in. Alex is buying time, but it's now a respite for Fire Rain. Oh, dodges the Vanguard's edge, and the rest of the team here from FPX is now following through. They blast apart the front line. Somehow, Fire Rain's still alive, but he will finally be finished off. At least down into his Guardian Angel. Double kill for the Darius. He's looking for a third. LWX says, no, I need another one for my contract. Here comes Aldi from the backside, looking to follow up onto LWX, but Cool was there with the body block, quite literally. And now we're onto the Baron itself. Snow over the wall.
2v5.
Can they make it happen? Snow chiming with those cues right now. Aldi from the front line, but they dive on towards the Quinn. They blast him. There's no chance of that ever happening. Essence Flux can't damage Minion Sun, and Gimgoon finds a secure on that one. He body blocks.
And that was such a great response from Alex. I actually thought he was going to lose FPX the team fight at the start, but he managed to dodge out on so many abilities. The start does start with Fire Rain being the one caught out. He does have to make it away around the contour of the terrain here, just trying to get back to his team, get away, and look at Alex's positioning. He gets chunked out, Lamb's respite goes up. Fire Rain has the brilliant idea of going into the respite, very good play there, but Alex dodges out on 2 slows and stuns coming out from Fire Rain, and is able to pull the composition from Vici where they have to go straight into the Darius.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I think like one of the key parts of that was just Alex having perfect time right there, dodging the Vanguard's edge, because if the Vanguard's edge lands, he follows with the Q, and that's like a kill into a reset into him killing like 2 or 3 people on the Iradia. So that was actually huge right there mid-team fight. That follows up into the Baron, and now FPX are basically lining up the kill shot here onto Vici.
That was on the Razor's edge. Alex able to drag that scenario out for 6 seconds, completed with like this, the invulnerable, and then with the perfect timing as well, just pulled Vici into such a bad position. You could see that Fire Rain was trying to go for the kill, but his team didn't really want to commit into that space because you're going face first into Galio Darius.
Right now, Crisp off to the side, actually getting caught out. He's going to pop the ultimate, find a couple taunts, but Vici take him down while he's trying to look for it, even while on the defense. This is going to buy a lot of time for Vici. I was literally about to say FPX, you know, this is about to hit the 11th hour for them, but Vici, they have the movement speed to track them down, force the fight. LWX turning this one around though. Here is Entrance looking to double down. Gimgoon on the backside getting chased after, but here comes the rest of the posse. Fire Rain backing away onto the bottom side of the map. He lands the duet, but he's still bleeding out. Gimgoon, he wants to finish off his kill. That was almost a great lead coming in from this way, but we're going to just say, screw that. We're going to finish him off with the flash. And Cool in the base is chasing it down onto the base itself. That's another 2 kills for 1, the 2-for-1 special to FPX. And while it looked good from Vici, I entertain the idea. I like the idea. It's going to be FPX looking for the win right here. 3 kills from Vici, or 3 players alive, I should say, looking to defend, but both Nexus turrets are down. They're turning onto the Nexus. How much does FPX want off this one? They want to just confirm the kill. Lays down the ultimate, Alex, and he will actually try to kill Audi before this one finishes. FPX take the win over Vici.
And a good Lamb's respite at the end coming out from Kindred, recognizing if you're in that scenario, just laying down the ultimate will finish the game right there. This is something that Tarzan unfortunately didn't do yesterday in the Gen G versus Griffin game. And finally, we see FPX walking away with another win. I have to criticize in those last moments, Audi should not have been top lane pushing that wave. That was a complete mistake coming out from the top laner, and you could see FPX, once they saw the Quinn into the top lane, they instantly rushed the base, they used their teleports, they went all in. It was a 3v5 scenario with one member coming back in less than 20 seconds, but they didn't read the play that could come out from Kindred. So Vici, honestly, they could have defended that push right there. They didn't read the play.
Yeah, courteous right there, FPX. Definitely silencing Shanghai. Remember, there was a lot of fans in the audience right here for Vici. This was essentially their day. They brought out their rappers. They had a lot of fan support coming with them. And right here, FPX were able to take them down 2-1, as you predicted, Clement. So, well played to them, for sure.
Bit of a disappointing game coming out from Vici. I felt like they could have hung on better. They did have a teamfight composition that could go, I'm not going to say toe-to-toe, but could actually win out. It was harder to execute, but there definitely was no opportunities.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they just got outplayed by FPX. I think the 4v5 that we saw around the Wolves was really clear in that, when we saw Gimgoon actually being able to, Cool being able to get that engage on the front side, and then turn the 4v5 into their own favor. That was really the nail in the coffin for them.
Look at that damage out from Snow, though. He was actually doing a lot of poke damage through this game on that Ezreal, but in the end, unfortunately, when you go toe-to-toe with 3 bruisers, Alex, who is able to buy so much time by himself, he said like 6 seconds in one of those final fights, and someone to initiate like Crisp, you run into that phase first with essentially 2 AD carries and 2 squishies, you're just gonna die.
And I think we're seeing the larger problem from Vici Gaming. They're trying to compensate on 2 sides at the same time. They want to find stronger lanes because their laners aren't working that well. Yep. But at the meantime, they're still trying to find a late game composition. And the two just really aren't meshing well together. If they go for one, they didn't win the early game. And then later game, they're looking at a very hard to execute teamfight comp. And they just couldn't pull it through. So they need a blend of these 2 elements. But it's very hard to say which areas need which side.
I mean, the eternal question, will it blend? We don't know yet for Vici, so we'll see if they can do that in future. For now, though, congratulations to FPX. We are going to take a quick break, but when we get back, we'll be here for WE taking on RNG, and we'll be swapping up casts as well. We'll see you after this.
让我们把故事传唱下去，继续书写 RNG 的传说。